I'm Dr. Angela McBurdy of DoctorFlute.com, and today's flute tip is on get more from your long tones. How many times do you play your long tones and you're not really thinking about what's going on, what's happening in your long tones? Well, I, for one, have thought about what I'm making for supper tonight, who has to be picked up from which activity after school today, and where everybody needs to go on the morrow or over the weekend or something like that. So I'm a culprit of not concentrating on my long tones. But if we can concentrate on your long tones, we can do more than just tone practice. It's all tone related because we're not definitely moving our fingers, but giving yourself things to think about while you're practicing, while you're playing those long tones will make them much more successful for you. So one thing that you can think about is vibrato. When we're playing, we need to use a variety of vibratos and not just have one. Now, my default vibrato is that's my default vibrato. So if I just play any solo, that's my default vibrato. Do I want to play with that vibrato every time I do my long tones? No, because that is going to give me something to think about. Now, if I say I want to practice with a more, I like to call it a spin vibrato, I know that if I'm not concentrating on that while I'm playing those long tones, I will eventually, over time, slip back to my default vibrato. So if I keep thinking about it as I'm playing, that's going to give me something to engage in with my tone while I'm playing. And if I'm not thinking about that all the way down, I will definitely go back and slow it up through a couple if I start thinking about what's cooking in the oven and what the kids are up to instead of doing their homework, they're fooling around, then my default vibrato will take precedence. So one thing is to think about your vibrato and vary your speeds. You might want a Baroque vibrato. For Baroque vibrato, I want a very non-obtrusive vibrato, a little slower. It doesn't have to be quite that slow. I might experiment with it, but I don't want it to be real obtrusive. So that gives me something to think about. Another thing to think about, and this should be something where you go, well, yes, of course, everybody knows this, but not everybody does know this, so I'm going to state it. And that is making sure that your tone stays consistent through those notes. So if I play a B like this, and then I get down to my F sharp, and it doesn't sound the same, then I know I didn't keep my tone consistent all the way down. I want to keep my throat open and make sure that when I play, then I've got the same embouchure, my throat's open, my embouchure is relaxed, and the tone stays consistent all the way down. The really tricky part to keep consistent is generally around E flat, D, and C sharp and C. So that area where you're having either the first finger up with those notes, or the only finger that's down is C, or C sharp, where of course you just have your E flat pinky down. And that's an area to really concentrate on your tone to make sure that it's consistent. Another thing to think about when you're doing your long tones is tapering the end. I'm going to practice. And I do this all the time because I don't think tapers come naturally to me. I'm not sure they come naturally to anybody, but I need to work on those. So I'm going to work at maybe exaggerating my jaw movement as I taper off. And let my jaw continue. So I really feel that that movement is happening. I'm moving my jaw, and it's not just an ending because my air ended. Another thing is to be consistent with your vibrato. It is really tricky to keep your vibrato through the taper. If I don't think about it, vibrato stops and it ends. It's very easy to as you taper, and it just stops. So you have to work harder at keeping that vibrato going all the way through. So work on your tapers, work on your different vibratos, work on a consistent tone. But the next thing to work on while you're doing those is changing your tone quality. So we don't always want to have our default tone. This is it. That is my default sound. And sometimes when I'm playing a piece of music, I might want to have a little darker sound. So where would that be? Experiment a little bit and say, what different sounds can I get? And then can I keep that darker sound? Or as I experimented, I had a little bit of a lighter sound. Can I keep that brighter sound all the way down to low C? Can I keep that darker sound, especially here? A woody sound, a dark sound, an E sound, an aw sound, the different vowel shapes you can have inside your mouth. So those gives you a different color to work on as you are playing through your long tones. So give yourself something to think about, maybe all those different things to think about while you're playing your long tones. You're going to get so much more from those long tones because you were engaged in them and you were trying to change it. You weren't always just playing with your default sound, your default vibrato. You're saying, I'm going to make it a faster vibrato, a slower vibrato, just a different vibrato from your usual, so that you can learn to use that to manipulate your vibrato, your tone color, your tapers in your sound at will. And this is a great way to do this. So today's flute tip is getting more from your long tones.